Okay, this is a weird video, but I gotta get this off my chest. This is just a revelation that should be known, but isn't. The fans are oftentimes smarter than the writers. Let me give a recent example of something that just irked me, okay? Baby Yoda. I'm commenting that Baby Yoda is Baby Yoda and he's not going to be anything other than Baby Yoda to me. People are like, no, that's not Baby Yoda. And the creators are even like, no, that's not Baby Yoda. I'm like, clearly, when we say Yoda, we're saying the same species that Yoda is. We're not saying that that's actually Yoda somehow mutated into a younger form. We're not saying that that's somehow Yoda reincarnated. We're not saying that that's somehow Yoda and we've been misled into believing that that character has somehow been slipped into this, Mandalorian story. And we've been bamboozled into thinking that this was in some timeline that it actually isn't. Because, the Star Wars universe is one of those universes where things kind of loop and go over and over again. For example, Assassin's Creed. They talk about the pre-humans or whatever they're called. The people, the ones with the tridents. They're essentially the Greek gods, Poseidon and all those guys. They're also essentially prehistoric man, but they have the ability to communicate to the future, which then implies that they also can exist in the future, which they actually prove in the story of Assassin's Creed. So let me just put this in a nutshell a little bit and simplify. If you can communicate to the future like a live feed, you are a time traveler, one directionally, but yet equally as powerful as a guy who could ping back and forth in time. If you know what's going to happen extra accurately, you don't need to go backwards in time. You could just literally deal with what's going to happen in the future of time. Now, someone can take that idea because I like time travel movies. I think I just saw this TV show called Impulse with a girl who could teleport. I think it was that show. Essentially, it's like Jumper. And if you know anything about Jumper, you start to think, well, what's the difference between Jumper or a teleporter? And then you deal with like Nightcrawler, and then you deal with people like the Flash. Because then you realize, hold on, is he teleporting when he enters the Flash Force? Is he entering another dimension because that's how it works? And then you look at guys like Ant-Man and you go, okay, this is hurting my brain. I can get really small and essentially alter time. I can move really quickly, essentially alter time. I can just have by default the ability to alter time. Meanwhile, all of these have the secondary result of you fold and manipulate space and matter. Because you have to. Essentially, Ant-Man, or the Atom in DC Universe, he becomes as strong as Superman when he's really, really small because his density somewhat remains the same, even if it's not even 100%. Imagine if you went from this Earth to a very, very tiny Earth, but you generated an unproportioned amount of density. You then would become Superman on that little Earth that you now fit on. This is my theory with Superman to begin with, because they said Krypton was 200,000 times the size of us. They also say that it takes 4 years to get there, but this is 4 years as a baby who's on an automated ship. So it could have been 100,000 years that Krypton was destroyed. They were kind of vague with that, but I'm not going to go into DC. I'm just going to point this out though. When you start dealing with time travel in any capacity, it gets a little muddled, just like when you start dealing with specific things that are in the hands of multiple writers, which is back on my topic here. Multiple writers will disagree on fundamental things, and we don't understand that as the fans and as equally intelligent human beings. Like, for example, this is a random one. Does Spider-Man kill women with his semen? Same with Superman. It's a weird, gross thing to think about, but it should totally happen. Let's talk about this for a second. Spider-Man should shoot webs out of his butt. Let's be honest about that. The fact that he then has unlimited webs that come out of his wrists, and he also can stick to things through his material of his uniform, through the rubber in his shoes. He can stick to solid surfaces, and the effect of those materials being in the way of his stickiness or his magnetism or whatever, his his claws in his, uh, I don't know, his skin platelets. I don't know what it is that makes him stick to the walls. But once you deal with that, you realize maybe 4 or 5 different ways you could explain that. Because, see, I personally think Spider-Man sticks to walls because he's really, really strong. Now, how does that work? Well, the thing, or, even like a Hellboy type of guy would just jam his fingers into the wall. Now, if you could, say, for instance, crush the wall just enough, like are we talking less than millimeters here? We're talking really crush the wall just to kind of dent it. Whether you're talking concrete, steel, if you just dent it enough for your fingers to get a slight grip, and you are able to hold 10,000 tons, then a 160-pound man or a 220-pound man, which is where, his size differentiates based on the height of the actor or the way that they draw Spider-Man, that allows you to do different things. Because you can lift 10,000 tons, it's believable that you should then be able to pinch your body weight successfully. You don't need to do a full hand around a bar in order to pull your body weight. You could pinch into a wall and get enough grip to stick to that wall. Now, maybe 2 fingers is necessary. 2 fingers and a thumb. Maybe just the palm and a finger, and he can balance himself completely, like hanging. He could just hang there. I'm saying this is a real way that I would theorize how he's sticking to walls. Now, other people think there has to be these little barb things that come out of his hands, like in the movie. That's how they showed it. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. But let's understand something. Those little barb things should break, and then he should lose his ability to fly. Say, for instance, when he's fighting someone and an explosion goes off and they blast him off of the wall, his claws should be stuck in that wall, unless then we're dealing with things that are unbreakable or highly regenerative. So we're dealing with something like a bone claw or a secretion of metal material like a Colossus type of guy, but only to these little barbs in his fingers, skin platelets or whatever. Very weird, but okay, I'll go with that. Here's another one. He generates an electrical force field much like Miles Morales now has, this electrical ability, which, again, so many questions come up. A, why does Spider-Man need webs if you could just blast energy? You know what I mean? Shouldn't he be just able to fly? Like, even if it's just like a burst of foot energy, why doesn't he have foot energy? Why does he only have hand energy? And again, is this the reason why they're able to stick to walls? Is this the reason why they seem to have super strength that is increased? Because, they just recently said Superman has something called tactile kinesis, which is the real reason why his strength is unlimited, essentially. Now, that begs the question, what about the Hulk? Is the Hulk also able to access some sort of field of energy that allows him to boost his physical limitations? Because just like Giant Man, there's only so much weight you can put on a frame, whether he's 15 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet. There's only certain limits of how much you can put on that thing. But the Hulk way supersedes those limitations. Even if his density was exponentially amplified, say for instance, you couldn't throw a mountain on a tank and not have that tank be crushed. So if we're talking about a guy who can lift 100,000 tons, which is essentially a tank, that means his limits are around the size of a tank. Now, when you see the Hulk do these Atlas level, Titan God level events where he's like able to lift a planet, or even Superman when they're able to lift the moon, Shazam, they're like able to lift the moon and do all sorts of weird little super strength things. It's a very feasible thing that this is a very plausible illogicality. But it makes sense. This is my point. We have to make these things standard practices, because then there's writers who will come into it, and I'm totally not a proponent of this, but the fantastical fantasy magic is magic type of belief system, BS. It could all be practical and scientific based. It does not have to be, well, these are magic particles, so of course they just break the rules, and then they give you a little smug giggle. No, keep it simple, based in science and fact. This material allows for this material to do that, and these things put in this very specific combination allows for this thing to happen. That's a serious thing. Um, I'm very I'm very done with my comment, but I feel like I'm missing something. Like I don't know, like people just when you're a fan of writers and you're a fan of content, don't let them tell you, because they're the creator, that this is the way that it is and this is the way that it must be. Art doesn't belong to the artist, because every artist shouldn't have the ability to doodle something really quick and tell you it's the greatest thing you've ever seen. We're supposed to judge if it's the greatest thing we've ever seen, and we're supposed to comparably come to that understanding. If you can't do these things, then you're just being a fool. You're being conned. You're being scammed. Don't let people tell you you need to be how we say you need to be in order to understand our art, or don't support. You know what we need to do? We need to not support those people. When someone says the Punisher is a war hero, and then another person says the Punisher is a crazy murderous dude, and then they do the same thing with Batman. They say Batman has a gun, and then they say Batman would never kill someone. We gotta call bullshit at some point in time, and then we gotta put our logical, practical understanding of what we want from this character. Do we want some fantastical child like Icon going around throwing batarangs, causing kids to jump out of windows? Because this is what they said about even Superman. Or do we want a guy who's not necessarily for children, who's definitely crazy, and who will definitely murder you, because that would be the only effective way for a guy dressed up like a fucking bat to even be, for him to even be a successful entity. He would have to be a guy who kills people, at least on occasion. And now anybody who's a cop, anybody who's a fireman, they will tell you there will be casualties in them doing their job. And I wrote this earlier, and I think this is a very powerful thing. I wrote, like, they want people to fail once being either too great or by making a mistake, which is why we're so lucky that there isn't real superheroes. Imagine if you could take a building down with a few punches, or a beam of energy from your body. Imagine if you could willfully just cause weapon of mass destruction level stuff. Now tell me this, do you want that person to go through the same criticism that any celebrity gets? They can't even give a political opinion without being told, you're a celebrity, shut up, we don't want to hear your personal political belief, even though we personally think that we're entitled to such a liberty. We can tell people who they should vote for, but because you can actually influence people on who they should vote for, you shouldn't say anything. Oh, here's another thing. You're stupider than I am. This is how people treat celebrities. Now imagine if that person could punch your head off your shoulders. Just one blow, not even full effort. Pow! Head off your shoulders. Imagine if this person could kick you in your chest and just burst all of your internal organs all at once. Just on impact, everything's bleeding. Everything's got a rupture or a tear. Imagine if this person could take a finger and stab it through your body. just a finger, just one swift, and then you're done. How about this? What if this person could pick you up, you can't escape their grasp, and they could literally just throw you off a very high place without doing anything except letting go of their grasp of you? Because that's essentially what Spider-Man could do. I played the video game Prototype. It was fun just grabbing people and they couldn't get away from me. Even though their bodies were flailing like little rag dolls, they could not get away from me. Fun as hell. Because that's what dudes would do, even if they just had slightly superhuman strength. Like Captain America would grab dudes by the collar and embarrass them. He would embarrass them. You got dudes talking, I forgot what it was, but he said, I'm going to stick your head up his ass, and then his head up your ass. And I forget what that was, but that's kind of the type of stuff that would go on. Now, is this the type of person that would then feel that they need to explain themselves? Is this the type of person that then needs to not go to war with the police, that want to supersede that level of authoritative manipulation? Is this the type of person that would not just go to the president and smack him around and say, who's in charge of this nation? Like, if I was bulletproof like Luke Cage, I would pretty much just walk around like I was the fucking god on this earth. Even if there were other people with superpowers, I would be like, yeah, but are you bulletproof, motherfucker? Pretty sure you're faster and stronger, but you're not bulletproof. I've got a grenade in my pocket right now. You want to test me? You really want to test the guy holding a stick of dynamite, hoping somebody acts stupid? Because I'm going to shove this down your mouth. And I want to see someone try and do that to me. Just see what would happen. Because I'm pretty sure I could have survived an explosion. I've done it already. I've tested my limits. My limits are pretty high. That would be how it would go, like, within the first week. Not to mention, I would just grab, like, money trucks and just be like, yeah, I'm the richest dude I know of. Come get your money if you want to die. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you where I'm at, and I'm going to spend all your money. Matter of fact, I'm not spending money. I'm just going to take a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to hide the money. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you want to fight, this will be the next location I'm going to be at. Now, once buildings start falling on me, once people start hitting me with bazookas and they call in airstrikes, they're going to just get tired of doing that shit and destroying, small cities and large cities, trying to kill me. They're going to get tired of doing that. They're going to be like, man, this guy, every time we call in a helicopter or an airstrike of some sort, we call in tanks and all sorts of stuff, he just walks away from it. Meanwhile, he's causing billions of dollars of property damage by walking into these areas that we care about. And he's causing devastation that cannot be repairable. That's how a superhero really would be. And I'm done talking.